mejor sí, tú puedes hacer una entrevista en la tele. Si te hará una entrevista de Alicia.
¿Los coches de la...
¿Policía secreta?
No. A ver, tiene que aquí, yo creo que es que
Ya, no sé. Venga, nada.
¡Ay, el televisor!
Me ha dicho que baje Joe con Hernán mañana.
Muy clever. Se ha acabado esto.
Que no le escucho.
Se ha acabado. Y el otro tenemos 33%.
Live no.
¿Eh?
Live no.
Live va a durar con todo el 33%. Una media hora larga, ¿no? No, más. Es un tercio de la batería. Una hora sí dura, ¿eh? Ya te digo. Marca.
Las 4, las 5, coño, no está mal.
Y luego, Wilson and Eric. Última hora. Al menos 140 muertos en las inundaciones por la dana en España. Acaba de subir 40.
Pero no solamente es Valencia, es Andalucía.
140. Al rato eran menos.
No, ya lo Ya, no, sí. Ya creen ahí que... Esos dos coches subidos al árbol, que están ahí. Creo que estaban ahí en el cine, ¿verdad? Ya que sí que tenía ahí.
Yo vengo el coche aquí. Y no lo puedo menear tampoco.
You can see just the scale of that devastation. Cars piled high on top of each other. The Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, saying that people are expected to be found dead inside vehicles that have been washed away in that flooding that emerged yesterday. And he's also raised the crisis level to level 2, warning people to stay at home, and that more rain in some regions is expected, as we see there some of the emergency response to the events of yesterday. Well, Jane Secker is in the region and has witnessed the devastation that's been caused.
Let me just show you inside one of the properties here. We're just walking along the side of the river where 3 of those 4 bridges have gone. These are the ground floors of most of the houses. A lot of them are garages, but this one, as you can see, from the sofas, from the furniture that had been discarded, was being used for living. The ladies just told us that the force of the water smashed both sets of the big doors that we have outside here, and you can see on the floor, the masonry, how high the water went and the damage it caused inside the property. I mean, I think in the UK we experience flooding sometimes, and you see the horror of what happens when the water comes in and then it recedes and it leaves a tide mark and it leaves a horrible smell and it leaves revolting stuff. But this was coming with such force that it's knocked down walls inside the houses. And of course, that's going to have an impact on what the people can do in terms of living here, because these properties, as well as being cleaned, are going to have to be checked. There are people who live several stories above this. Now, this town really didn't get much of a warning that the water was coming, but the force of it was so bad here. This area has hills behind and big gorges, which of course meant that the water, when it did come down, was funneled. It came down this river, picked up debris on the way, smashed 3 of the 4 bridges away, which is now causing quite a big issue in terms of the clean-up and getting the emergency services back here. But these houses that are on the sides of the river, really, really badly affected. And what's happening here now this morning is people have got up, they're trying to do the best that they can with what they have in their houses, you know, using shovels, using rakes, to try and scoop the water and the mud out of the properties. There's one here just to the right, as you can see, but it is really, you know, they're fighting a losing battle because the weather is meant to turn again later on this evening. There's a property up here, and I think we can possibly talk to the man here. Hello. We're from Sky News. I'm Jane. Hello. What's your name?
Nice to meet you, Adrian.
Adriana. Tell us what happened here.
I mean, here we have the river. It came, everything. It went. It was flooded, everything. So we come across the home. We couldn't save anything from the first floor. The second and third floor are hopefully okay, but we lost everything. This is something you see maybe in the movies, in the news, and you never expect this to happen to us, but finally happened, and yeah, we have to find a new home now, and it's devastating. Yeah.
We can see the watermark on the side. You can see how high the water came, but we were just saying what's really obvious is that it wasn't just a lot of water, it was really fast and really strong.
It was really fast. Indeed, I wasn't here. My mother and my sister was in the third floor. But I was in another company. I was in a very high floor. Always, I was stuck there. But yeah, you can see I came like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I saw everything. The water, yeah, everything. The water was so high. Everything was.
And what was this before? This area, was this a garage or was this a living space?
No, this is the living space. This is the living space. You can see here the TV. I think he's
goodness.
recording the TV.
And the fireplace.
But for example, you can see the windows are there. You can see the window right there.
Right, we'll just turn around, James. He's just showing that the windows from the property.
The window is there.
That's all the way down there.
Yeah, we have the other there. That is inside the home. We don't know many things where are.
Your parents must have been terrified.
Yeah, my mother was terrified. She is with our dog, with our pet. Yeah, they were in the last floor. I was calling them. They were just screaming, the water is coming. This has never happened to us. So they were screaming. They were terrified because they think the water could go outside to the third floor. So finally didn't, hopefully, but yeah, it was the sound of the wall falling down was terrible, and yeah.
Are they worried about the house now, the structure? Because if the wall has fallen down, is it safe to live in those upper stories?
We don't know because anybody came here to see how is the structure, but we know that that part is almost falling down. So yeah, I think this is not a secure place. We have to find another home, another place to be. We don't have electricity, we don't have water, so yeah, we have to go.
Okay. Adrian, thank you so much. Really good of you to talk to us, and really hope your parents manage to get sorted out and get somewhere to stay. Thank you very much. Well, the story of Adrian and his family and Sandra that we spoke to earlier is replicated all the way down the street and on every street, really, in this part of the town in Picaña. It really is a desperate scene.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Carmen Solana, who is a crisis and disaster management expert at the University of Portsmouth. Really appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us. Considering those images we've just seen in Jane's report there, how do the authorities start to respond adequately to a situation of such magnitude?
The task is titanic, but obviously there are clear priorities. First is trying to rescue people or recover as many people as possible, as well as reinstate, open some of the infrastructure, so roads and communications, to be able to access the affected areas, as well as being able to just provide shelter for those that have been affected. And it will be the clearing up of the debris. That's the next phase.
A situation that is not unique to Spain, but is quite prevalent across Europe, for example, is that many infrastructure developments are hundreds of years old, whether that's the channelization of rivers, whether that's drainage systems, whether that's the buildings themselves. To what degree does that pose a risk and increased threats in situations such as these in 2024?
Well, of course, these facilities, this infrastructure was built for a different situation. Climate change has increased these extreme events. And these days, some of these bridges are not tall enough for debris to move underneath and they act almost as dams. They get clogged by debris, and they are hazard magnification. They increase the amount of flooding. In some cases, as you mentioned, the bridges have been lost, and that just shows the level of force that the water had. So for a climate change, for the future, we need to start thinking of redesigning some of this infrastructure to be able to cope with the magnitude of these events, higher bridges, different building codes, maybe changing the type of use of houses, not to having the ground floor living areas, but maybe businesses or garages, and start moving up if people have to live because of that's their home. If they have to live close to rivers and riverbeds.
And I assume that whilst the upfront cost of redesigning infrastructure, raising bridges, strengthening them, changing building design, for example, would be hugely expensive, it would, though, be far cheaper than seeing these buildings, bridges, whatever, being washed away or damaged. The money up front actually would be a saving.
Absolutely. So some of the infrastructure that has been lost provides an opportunity to build back better and build back for not the immediate future, but the long term. And the ones that are still, that they still remain, is just trying to maybe reinforce some areas, maybe think of better ways to divert the water when the volume is too large for what they were designed for.
How do you, thinking of that design, how do you factor that in? Do you factor for a 1 in 50-year event, a 1 in 100-year event, a 1 in 200-year event? How do you try and figure out what's to come down the line? Because so often we talk about record-breaking rain, record-breaking temperatures, record-breaking winds. To what degree do you build in that sense of mitigation, and how far do you go with it?
It is very difficult because obviously these are really large magnitude events, but they're low frequency, so they don't happen very often, and that means that they don't look like an immediate priority, except at the moment when we have a disaster like this one. But in reality, there are models that are forecasting how the weather is going to be like, how large these floods are going to be. And what we're seeing is that the events that you will expect every 30, 40 years are almost happening in yearly or year on and off basis. So therefore, it's a very good question, but one will think that they need to be constructing for events of around 200 years, because we want this infrastructure to last, and we know the projections of climate change. So you need to be thinking of bigger than what we have been doing up until now. So they will be resilient, and at least they will be operational for a long time.
To what degree, though, do countries need to work together? Because rivers, mountain ranges, weathers, events don't happen in isolation. They often transcend national boundaries. Heavy rain in the Alps could affect an area downstream that didn't have that heavy rain in the first place. How much European integration is there in this management of these extreme situations?
Well, there are lots of exercises. The preparedness is in there. The planning is in there. Maybe the planning is a little bit old-fashioned, or maybe wasn't fit for purpose to the current conditions. Probably they were optimistic in how the weather was going to be changing. But in reality, there are very good structures and communications between different countries in European countries. And in fact, there are very many exercises that involve different countries to try to plan for these eventualities. So I think the awareness of the authorities and of the responders is in there. The problem is, as you were saying, infrastructure these things have been built hundreds of years ago sometimes, and therefore it's very difficult to reinforce them to current standards. Sometimes maybe the riverbeds, trying to raise the walls around rivers, but it is a very costly exercise, but it needs to be done. We need to invest. If we don't want to see a repetition of something like this, we need to invest, and not only in Valencia, but all around Europe, on areas that are highly populated, very close to rivers, and very, very vulnerable and exposed to this type of hydrometeorological hazards.
Dr. Carmen Solana from the University of Portsmouth, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as we continue to show you these live images from Valencia, let's talk about the weather, because the strength of the rain and the speed at which it fell was unprecedented. But like we've been saying, climate change means storms like this are becoming more frequent and will continue to do so into the future. So what exactly is going on and where can we expect to go from here? Our science correspondent Thomas Moore has been taking a look.
It is almost impossible to imagine quite so much rain in such a short time. 491 millimetres, just short of half a metre, fell in some areas around Valencia, according to the Spanish Weather Service. That's a year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. The weather system that caused the flooding is not unusual on the eastern side of the Iberian Peninsula at this time of year. Winds flowing over the still warm waters of the Mediterranean picked up lots of moisture, then mixed with a pool of cold air sitting high in the atmosphere over the Valencia region. This allowed huge storm clouds to develop with intense downpours. The low-pressure storm also ground to a halt, surrounded on all sides by high atmospheric pressure. Its path was blocked. The heaviest rain fell on just a smaller area and it was quickly overwhelmed. Now, climate change will make storms more severe. The atmosphere is currently just over a degree warmer than it was in pre-industrial times, holding around 7% more moisture. But we are currently on track for more than 3 degrees of warming by the end of the century.
We can see that we're not ready for the storms that we're receiving now in our cities. They are not built to withstand this amount of water, this amount of destruction, this amount of power, and it's going to be worse in the future. This is an urgent call to adapt our cities where we can.
Spain has endured climate extremes in recent years, with a severe drought in the northeast forcing authorities to ration tap water. The dry heat has also hard-baked the soil surface, so water runs off rather than being absorbed. And all that rain had nowhere to go.
Just a reminder that from 9 o'clock this evening you can watch the special edition of The World on the floods that have devastated Spain. That will be coming to you live from Valencia. Still to come this afternoon, abortion buffer zones come into force to protect women from harassment from anti-abortion campaigners.
Big stories don't always come from big cities. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent.
You are not getting in this elevator, okay?
The judge made it very clear that she could see no justifiable reason why Sakulas wasn't here facing British justice.
No te preocupes. ¿Para dónde vais? Este no, ahí, con la señora. ¿Has subido ahí en la otra? ¿Has abierto en la otra? Ábrela si quieres. Ábrela para que vaya más. A ver, esa se queda, Esta no se queda, ¿eh?
Cuando he llegado a la salida de la pista de silla me he desviado hacia Beniparrell, pero ahí también estaba tapado. Me he desviado cruzando Beniparrell.
23. Está aguantando. 23 minutos, pues.
Penchi. Pero ya
Penchi.
Sí, pero se ha puesto en amarillo, como...
Vale, ya.
Luego cuando llega un 5% o así, ya se para.
Quiero un palo de eso.
Toma, toma.
Toma.
Muchas gracias.
Sí, del coche sí. Cuatro. es lo ideal, pero una vez que esté aquí Hernán, el chico, dando el directo, haciendo los temas, pero me encanta.
el carro también.
Was increasing, so very fastly we took our parents, well, our grandparents, because our house is this, and their house is the one of the boys are trying to open my grandpa's house.
That is the roller shutter that they're trying to smash up.
And my brother and I didn't want that my parents, well, my grandparents stay there. So we took them to our house. And my parents were buying food as a normal day. So we called them to come as fast as they could. And my parents called my family, well, my uncle, my cousin, because they also live nearby here. And it was so stressful because, well, they were coming, the water was coming, and it was very stressful.
And we're seeing now there's a lady there who's just arrived with a trolley with brushes in it. There are lots of volunteers who are coming here.
Yeah.
Lots of people want to help.
I'm so grateful to them because we don't know them, but they are doing this for love because I don't know why they are such a good people. I don't know how to say thanks to everyone.
I want to bring you some breaking news now with regards to the situation in Spain and Valencia. In the last few minutes, the Valencia regional authorities have said that the death toll has risen to 155. That's an increase in the past hour from 140. Now hearing in the last minute from the Valencian regional authorities that the death toll has risen to 155. Well, earlier this afternoon, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez gave an update about the ongoing operations to find those still missing.
Quisiera reafirmar el compromiso del gobierno.
I would like to reaffirm the commitment of the government of Spain with the Valencian community and once again express our solidarity with the victims, their families, and also convey the commitment of the government of Spain and all the units that belong to the National Civil Protection System to help by land, sea and air, by all means, for as long as it takes, with all possible resources to find the missing people right now.
Para encontrar ahora mismo a las personas desaparecidas. Y quiero decirles que
And I want to tell you that the government of Spain is here to provide you with any additional resources you may need. I said it yesterday, we are not going to leave the Valencians alone. We are going to be with you for as long as it takes, with all the resources and with all possible means. The priority right now is, of course, finding the victims, the missing, and to appease the anxiety and anguish that families may be suffering.
Las víctimas, a los desaparecidos.
Well, in the last hour, we've received this footage of a baby being rescued out of the floodwater. This remarkable image, you can see the child on the harness being lifted up by Spanish firefighters. Rescuers have been using helicopters from across Valencia and neighbouring regions, desperately scouring for survivors among mud-caked towns and villages or in the wreckage of vehicles. Well, as we see these images, our Europe correspondent Adam Parsons has been in Valencia to a part of the region effectively cut off from the rest of the country.
You look behind me, you see those cars stacked on top of each other. We have to keep quite still here because there is such a sliver of internet link that we've come here. If you go up more centrally, you can't contact the outside world. So these people feel cut off. They've got no shops, very little in the way of emergency service support. So as I look around me now, I can see people using anything they can get to try and drag mud out of their homes. That noise you can hear is somebody trying to smash a protective barrier off the front of a shop, and that is repeated again and again. This is what happens when you get natural disasters, is that they simply come. I spoke to one woman called Veronica, lives on the corner there, 2 kids. She said in the course of a minute, they went from having heavy rain to having 2 meters. That is over my height of water running through this town, sweeping away cars, smashing through homes, sweeping possessions in front of it. 95 people are known to have died in these floods so far. And I have to say, this town isn't even the worst one that's been affected in this region. The grim reality is that everyone in Spain expects that that number, 95, is going to grow, and there are fears that this terrible weather, these appalling heavy floods, could recur in the south of Spain.
Well, that's the situation with Adam Parsons. Meanwhile, our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, is in Algemisi in Valencia and saw the damage that's been done there.
You can see under the bridge here, this is where the water came down the road, pulling all of this debris with it. If I just move out of the way, you can see there's a car on its front there. Further round, where you can't quite see from this angle, there are trucks in the water halfway submerged. And if we actually just spin the camera around, you can see that the power of the water has actually taken out the central reservation here. And we just spoke to a couple who said that one part of the city where they live is totally cut off. So we're going to go to that area shortly. But some of the other people we've spoken to living here have told us that the water, like you've heard where you are, came so suddenly. They had no warning. Some of them said their houses have been destroyed. They've never seen anything like that. And I think what's happening now, what you're reflecting and Adam's reflecting and I'm hearing as well, is that there's this collective trauma which is happening across parts of Spain. They are grieving this natural disaster together.
Well, throughout the course of the afternoon, you can scan that QR code on the left-hand side of your screen for further updates. And from 9 o'clock this evening, you can watch a special edition of The World on the floods that have devastated Spain. That will be presented live from Valencia. Here in the UK, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have been questioned about how they...
ropa tiene? No sé yo, Bueno, cuánto vais, cuidado con la velocidad.
Sí, no, hablaban de ahí, no sé, creo que estaba. Pero yo soy de ese plástico. We're alive, 2 box más. 3, vamos.
13. 13. Ahí está una tía que me cae. Sí, de verdad.
Madrid debe haber enviado ayuda, Cataluña. Te dejo aquí un ratito y voy a cargar el móvil que estoy muy bien. ¿Cómo hacemos los boxes? Para dar el contenido a todos ustedes. Luego ya...
No va a haber ratito. No hay ratito.
Atención, atención. Espera que no traguen mobles ni fem al carrer, per a no dificultar l'accés als vehicles d'emergències. Se ruega que no saquen muebles ni basura a la calle, para no dificultar el acceso a los vehículos de emergencias.
Estaba visualizando. ¿Dónde estás? Mis tíos se han ido. Mis tíos en general se han ido. Mi tío y mi tía.
¿Cómo va?
¿Ya? ¿Lo has
Ya los he alojado y les he dado para cenar esta noche.
Joder, pues. ¿Te has hecho el día, no?
No,
Toda la buena obra del día.
ya no puedo más. Ya no puedo más. Tengo la cadera ya por día.
Yo estoy mal porque no sabía hacer el hospital sin desayunar.
Pero yo no me tomo las pastillas. Ni de la tensión ni de nada. Mira cómo me llevo.
Pues entonces ni desayunar, ni comer, ni ir al baño. Desde que salí del...
Porque donde sea, que no.
O sea, nada. O sea, hoy estamos en Alvis. Y además hemos tenido una maravilla.
¿Han tirado la cámara? Es de bastante. Todo. En cuanto el agua bajó, salieron yo los vi cómo tenía la gente con balones. A mí no me lo Llevamos un día, a ver. Así que ahora aquí un rato toda la vida. ¿Está dando buena? No, la hemos comprado en Valencia, esta. Por aquí negra, ¿no? Bueno, por ahí tiene. Pero hayas visto.
Va yendo la luz ya.
Sí, ahí estás viendo un grupo de gente limpiando.
Sí.
Pero ¿sabes por qué? Porque el de la derecha es el empresario. Y se ha traído a sus trabajadores. Ayer, viendo la cadera y unos cuantos aquí, todos los garajes que hay, todos los garajes están
algo así rapidito.
Vale, vale, sí, rápido, rápido. Sí, sí, esto es muy cortito, ya sabes.
Porque como nos quedamos sin luz, hay que llevar velas a la gente.
Ah, no has acabado tu tarea.
No, me voy a acabar la tarea. Y hay otro amigo mío por ahí que es policía, que ese aún estará más edad. Aún estará más edad. Ese salvó a un montón de personas.
¿Sí?
Sí.
Espera, ven para acá, que está saliendo en directo. ¿Puedo hacer entrevista en directo? Es que se tiene que ir.
Y bueno, no pasa nada, un momentito no pasa nada.
No, no, lo importante es esto no... A ver, ¿dónde te ponemos?
Para que no arriba a entrar...
Aquí. Ponte ahí delante.
¿Aquí?
Aquí más, muy cerquita.
¿Aquí?
¿Es para la tele? Sí. ¿Es para la tele? Sí, sí.
A ver, ¿para qué será?
Ahí. Tú me miras a mí, a la cámara como si no...
Tengo experiencia.
Ah, vale. ¿Qué se vivió aquí hace 2 noches? ¿Qué viste?
Pues hace 2 noches no, a media tarde de pronto, sin que lloviera ni nada, dijimos ¿qué está pasando? Y fue una avalancha de agua que inundó absolutamente todo, se convirtió todo lo que estáis viendo en una especie de pantano con ríos que eran las calles que bajaba absolutamente el agua a toda la velocidad, sin que nadie nos hubiera dado el más mínimo aviso. Desde primeras horas de la tarde pues estuvimos viendo mucho viento, mucha tempestad, pero aquí el agua no caía, ¿no? Y fue absolutamente de repente cuando llega el agua, pilla a una serie de personas que hemos podido ayudarles y que salgan a flote, ¿no? En Mercadona, en Consum está la gente allí comprando, los trabajadores trabajando. Y eran ya unos torrentes brutales de agua que arrastraban a las personas, y aquí mismo en la esquina unos vecinos pudieron a través de un coche salvar a unas cuantas personas, en cambio en otros lugares no pudimos, aunque lo intentamos, no pudimos de ninguna de las maneras porque el agua era tan fuerte y no teníamos ninguna herramienta. Llamábamos a los teléfonos 112, todos estaban bloqueados. No hubo absolutamente nadie más que
Effect.
Well,
I mean, maybe just to say, as you have a chance to read the details in the report, you'll see the analysis that's provided around the different contexts. I mean, just to say that for Gaza in particular, if we look at what's happened to agricultural infrastructure, to productive assets since beginning of the conflict, October last year, there's been a huge impact on ability to locally produce food. So, for example, 68% of agricultural land in this